The Red Eye Radio podcast is a service of Freightliner and Detroit.
Now it's Red Eye Radio with talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or just starting your day, welcome to the show. For Gary McNamara and Eric Harley, Rick Roberts. This is Red Eye Radio.
And thank you so very much. Always a pleasure to be in when the guys are away. Doing a different kind of broadcast, kind of turning it over to you tonight. In the sense that it's 2019, the year in review, but from your perspective, those things that impacted you the most, maybe your family, your business, the future of your kids. It was a bumpy 2019, and we're mere days away from the year 2020, and I'm sure we would do a lot of different things if we could. Let's get to your calls. Let's go to Russell in White Plains, New York. Russell, thank you for waiting. How you doing, Russell?
Very well, thanks, Rick. The caller from Farmingdale, he seemed to think he was the smartest guy he ever met. He said rudeness and insults and humiliation are the way to argue with people who disagree with you. And I think people are rude and insulting because they can't express themselves. But to get to my point, Rick, I think the best thing about 2019 is that Trump and his administration are being held to account for what they did during the first 2 years.
Such as, give me an example.
Well, the articles of impeachment really function as an order of protection for this country because Trump now knows that he can't pull the things he was pulling.
Well, like what?
What was he pulling?
Yes.
Well, he was messing around with Russians and then forbidding anyone to present evidence about it, obstructing justice.
Okay, when you say messing around, I read the transcript, the full transcript of the phone call to Zelensky in the Ukraine. I have fully vetted, the chasing of the ghost under the bed for the Russian meddling. It's obvious now, it's come to light. There were FBI agents embedded in the Trump campaign during the so-called Russian collusion. The whole thing was a joke.
Well, I believe that they were doing their job. But tell me, Rick, you can inform me now, what is the opposing point of view that the Ukrainians worked with Hillary Clinton to divulge a server, Podesta's emails that made her look bad? Because I didn't vote for her, Rick. I didn't vote for her because of those emails and what she did to Bernie Sanders. So let me get Trump's argument correct, if you can give it to me. The Ukrainians really were working with Hillary to betray her own campaign, right? That's what it is, Rick?
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm saying Trump's argument...
Why do you think Trump is being impeached?
He's being impeached because he's corrupt and he's ineffectual. He doesn't know how to do the job.
Please don't do the Democratic sound bites. We're having a conversation. He's corrupt. Specifically, What do you mean that he's corrupt?
He traded $400 million of taxpayer-funded weapons for political influence in his own campaign.
That's not true. Nothing was ever done.
Tell me how it's not true.
Nothing was ever done. Zelensky, the head of the Ukraine, they never did anything. If you read the
he was asked to, wasn't he?
No, he was asked to tell the United States what they knew about corruption. If you know anything about the Ukraine, you know that historically they have been one of the most corrupt countries on planet Earth. And before Trump saw fit to give them $400 gazillion of taxpayer money, he wanted to assure himself they weren't getting back in bed with another corrupt government official. So he said, and if you read the transcript word for word, he didn't say, help me. He said, help us understand. You know what's going on. What's happening with this? Well, the fact of the matter is you got Biden's kid, which has got some history to himself, but I don't even go there. He's making $50,000 a month sitting on the board of an oil and gas company, doesn't have 1 day's experience in the oil and gas business. Biden tells them, hey, these people are investigating the company where my kid works. Fire him or you're not getting the money. And they fired him and they gave him the money.
Rick, can I say one thing? Would you be willing to have the Bidens testify if Bolton and Pompeo came in? Would you be willing?
I don't believe anything that Biden says. I don't believe anything that Schiff says. I certainly don't believe anything Pelosi says. I mean, lying has become the new norm in Washington. And I don't believe a lot of what the right says. But at the end of the... Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Would you be willing to have a trial, though, where the two Bidens were forced to testify and Bolton and Pompeo were forced to testify? I personally think that Biden Jr., their Hunter, would take the Fifth Amendment. We wouldn't get anything out of him. But would you be willing to see a trial?
No. What I'm willing to do is drain the swamp. Send them all home. I'm sick and tired of American taxpayers paying for time, money, and resources, a dossier that they knew or should have known was false. They got FISA warrants for. Somebody's head's going to roll for that. I'm sick and what did we pay? $62 million for the so-called Russian collusion, and all we found out was that the Hillary Clinton Foundation paid for the opposition research. I don't care about that. I don't care about this impeachment. You got generally what happens. There's a crime committed. Now you're going to get impeached. This is just the opposite. This is an impeachment looking for a crime.
Well, it's a rolling impeachment, and believe me, a crime will be found. And I hear they sold up Manafort's condos and made money on the Mueller investigation, unlike Benghazi, which is over and over.
Please. I think the American people are sick and tired of the division. They're sick and tired. What have the Democrats done for their constituents in the last 3.5 years? Nothing. They can't run on anything going into the 2020 election. They can't say, hey, vote for us. Look what we've done in the last 3.5 years. They've done nothing but spend our money trying to eliminate the competition.
Rick, I'm 63 years old. I just signed up last month for Obamacare, so they have done something for me. Let me ask you one last thing before you let me go. Do you believe if democracy can run amok? In other words, there's too much democracy?
In what context?
Well, in the context of if we get Bernie and AOC and this country becomes a more socialist country, are you willing to accept that? And are Trump supporters willing to accept that?
I can't speak for the supporters. I'm not. I don't think AOC could run a lemonade stand, let alone anything of substance.
The woman is brilliant. She's 29 years old.
The woman is an absolute train wreck. I mean, I can pick apart, name a speech, I'll pull it on the archives, and I'll rip it apart. This woman is the dumbest woman on the planet. Sorry, you ask how I felt, that's how I feel. It's literally like the inmates running. She's brilliant. The Earth's going to end in 12 years. We need to ground all airplanes, get rid of all cars. We need to get rid of all cows because they fart too much. She's an absolute walking, talking moron wrapped in an idiot. Bernie Sanders, it's all free. Everything's free. What do you want? It's free. They're idiots. I couldn't accept either one of them to do anything. Now, she may be one hell of a bartender. I don't know. That's what she was doing before she stumbled and fell her way into Congress. I don't know. She may make a great mojito. I can't speak to that. But she sure knows nothing. Her economic, why am I even talking about her? She's an idiot. And Tlaib and Omar and Presley, they're anti-Semites, anti-Americans? No, I don't want any of them. They can ride in the bus, but I sure don't want them steering or driving. I mean, you sound like a nice guy, an open-minded guy. Just don't be so open-minded your brains fall out, because that's exactly what would happen with Ocasio-Cortez and Tlaib and Omar and the rest of these morons. I mean, it's just sad, isn't it? Sorry, that's what I think. The year in review, thank you for the call. I appreciate it. The year in review, 2019, from your perspective, the things that made the biggest impact on you and yours. 1-866-90-RED-EYE. That's 866-907-3339. We'll have more Westwood One news correspondent reports. And most importantly, we'll find out what meant the most to you in 2019. I'm Rick Roberts on Red Eye Radio.
Winter weather is inconvenient, but during a breakdown, it can turn downright dangerous. Roadside assistance providers like TA Truck Service Road Squad hit the highways to reach stranded drivers as quickly as possible. But how do you keep yourself safe in the meantime? Here are a few things you'll want to make sure you have on your rig before you find yourself in this situation. Pack extra food, water, and a first aid kit. Since you never know how long you might be down on the side of the road, always have emergency water and non-perishable food on hand. Keeping a first aid kit on board is a smart thing to do year-round, but it can really come in handy during a winter breakdown. Be sure to stock your truck with supplies and make an action plan before you find yourself in this situation. In the event you do break down, call 1-800-824-SHOP, and Road Squad will be there whenever, wherever you need them.
This maintenance tip is brought to you by TA Truck Service. More bays, more expertise, more solutions.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
All across America, it's Red Eye Radio. I'm Rick Roberts, in for Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. By the way, if you're looking for a list of stations throughout the country, maybe podcast, want to listen live to the full 5-hour show, you can do that on the Red Eye Radio app or the Listen Live button at redeyeradioshow.com. 2019, the year in review, a little different twist from your perspective. The things that made the biggest impact on you in the year 2019, and we're just a few days away from being in 2020. Let's get to your calls. Let's go to Christian in West Palm Beach. Christian, you've been very patient. How you doing, Christian?
Hello, Rick. I'd thank you for taking my call. I'd like to be your best caller by making reference to about 2 or 3 of your previous callers, if I may.
Okay.
Before I get to the subject. I'd like to say that concerning socialism, in 1977, I went to visit my friend in West Berlin. He's in the Army. And I took a trip to East Berlin, and it is true the shelves in the grocery stores were empty. Enough said on that subject. Next subject. Concerning the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, they are the most overturned court. Why is there no checks and balances? When the judge is overturned repeatedly, why isn't he disqualified as a judge?
Because there's no political will to do so. Okay.
Next subject. Concerning the shootings in the schools, we had one down here in Broward County. I'm in West Palm Beach County. If you want to know how terrible the liberal, you've talked about the liberal cities and everything and how bad things are. Well, the schools are just as bad because of the liberal policies. Everyone needs to read a book called Why Meadow Died by Andrew Pollack. Why Meadow Died by Andrew Pollack. Meadow was killed in Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Broward County. And Andrew Pollack, her father, and a couple of others wrote a tremendous book exposing what the liberal policies in Broward County did to create that situation. Now, the reason I called, next final subject, I called because I wanted to explain where the left-right political paradigm comes from. No one understands this, but in Matthew 25:33, Jesus put the sheep on the right and the goats on the left. And I'm suggesting to you that the reason the left in this country is so violent and intolerant and nasty is because they are the Antichrist beast of Revelation, really, and that's because Jesus separated the sheep from the goats.
Look, I believe in God, believe in Jesus Christ, believe in the Holy Spirit. No man know the hour, no man know the day, the time. No man know the beast, as it were. I think it's much simpler than that. I don't know that God has a lot of time to mess with that in the first place. I think anytime liberalism is left unchecked, gone unchecked, not accounted for, it always devours itself. Basically, liberals don't want rules, regulations, parameters, guidelines. Well, human beings have to have those things, or they simply devolve. And that's what we've done. That's why we've got kids graduating, reading at a 6th grade level, that don't know what the Constitution is. When asked if we ought to get rid of the Bill of Rights because they're antiquated, oh, yeah, let's do that. They don't realize it's the first 10 amendments. I mean, you can't miss what you didn't know you had. Anytime the government gets involved with anything, it automatically, in less than a blink of an eye, becomes extraordinarily expensive and extraordinarily less efficient. And that includes educating kids. That's why I've been an advocate forever. I don't care if you got to get 2 jobs, sell the boat, do whatever you have to do. Get your kids out of public school and put them in charter schools, put them in private schools, put them in parochial schools. And, well, Rick, you hate teachers. Didn't say that. I'm talking about the curriculum. If the teachers are drawing up the curriculum, that's a different story. But I can guarantee you they're not. Anytime the government's involved, it's a giant screw-up. And that's exactly what we're saying. These liberal cities are being run by liberals. They get the votes because they say what people want to hear. I'm not going to hold you accountable. There are no guidelines, no parameters. I'll loosen the laws. Oh, yeah, he's for me. Except he runs the city the same way, so it becomes rat-infested, drug-infested, gang-infested. It no longer is a viable place for people to live, so they leave town. And the only thing left are the shambles. It's like a wide shot from the old movie Escape from New York. Nobody wants to live there. That's what liberal leadership, or liberal lack thereof leadership, will give you. And it'll give it to you every single time. All right. Sorry, didn't mean to go off on a rant. I'm prone to do that from time to time. It's the year in review, 2019. A little different in the sense that it's from your perspective. A lot of year in review is a lot of recordings by people that, and we've got some recordings, some very good Westwood One news correspondents work very hard on some of this. But I'm more interested in your opinion. What impacted you? What hit home to you that you're still struggling with, still trying to deal with? We've talked about North Korea, law and order, the world. We're going to get to thanks for the memories here in just a little bit. The Ukraine and sports and Brexit and Syria, entertainment. The year in review, it makes a lot of sense to look back and say, okay, man, let's not do that again. All right? Or to look back and say, hey, that worked. Maybe we ought to support that a little more. All right, here's the number. 866-90-RED-EYE. That's 866-907-3339. Again, 866-907-3339. The year in review, 2019, from your perspective. We'll do that next. I'm Rick Roberts. This is Red Eye Radio.
Gary, I was traveling recently. It was a few months ago, and I was thinking to myself, man, it would be really great to know the weather along my route. I knew the weather where I was beginning. Mm-hmm. I knew the weather at my destination. But I didn't know the weather and the timing of the weather in between. Well, now there's the Drive Weather app. This is pretty cool. I actually downloaded this thing. It is so easy to use.
You were just showing that to me. It is really cool.
Man, all you have to do is put in your starting point and your destination point, right? Mm-hmm. And then the start time, and you can kind of slide that start time to show what the weather is going to be based on the forecast in between.
This is great for, like, thunderstorms.
Oh, man. Especially with thunderstorms, winter storms, maybe there might be, because here's the problem. In some areas, there might be calling for ice or anything else. Mm-hmm. Well, you need to know because it's very dangerous. Listen, the U.S. DOT says there are 1.2 million weather-related accidents each year. This is really about safety, and knowledge helps you stay safe. The Drive Weather app, it's available on Android and on iOS, and you need to get it. Download it for free. There's a free version, or just $9.99 a year. You get 7 days of accurate weather and wind reporting for all your drives. The Drive Weather app. Download it today.
Phone lines are open. 1-866-907-3339. 866-90-RED-EYE. Now, for Gary McNamara and Eric Harley, Rick Roberts.
And thank you so much. Always a pleasure to be in for the guys when they're away. Normally, I'm found in the afternoons at WBAP Radio right here in Dallas, Texas, Monday through Friday from 2 to 5. Doing a year in review from your perspective, that is to say, we've got reports, certainly. A lot has transpired over this past year. But what has impacted you the most? What has made the most impact on you personally, maybe your family, your kids, your future? Not everything was political. Let's go to your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE. That's 866-907-3339. Let's go to Sal. Sal in Denver. I appreciate your patience. How you doing, Sal?
I am great. I've really been enjoying you on the Red Eye scene, and I've got to start listening to your afternoon show as well.
Well,
I don't know if you noticed that you got a lot of competition in the afternoon, but I really want to listen to what you have to say.
I appreciate that. I started in talk radio there in Denver.
What you say exponentially.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
So? What station were you at in Denver?
What's that?
Did you say you started radio in Denver?
I started.
Or I missed
No. I started in talk radio at 85 KOA. That was my first talk radio gig, but that was back in 93, 94.
I wasn't listening to the radio back then. I might have listened to it if I knew you were there.
Thanks.
But I really wanted to ask you how you feel about the 5-person council for the USMCA once it's passed, and it's going to go through. 3 of these 5 people are going to be people that are not from the United States. So, 2 from Canada, 1 from Mexico, or whatever.
Right.
So I say, doesn't this undermine our Constitution, or can it potentially undermine the things that have been set up in the United States because some guy literally from some other country doesn't agree with it?
Now, it's a good question. We were under something very, very sinister prior to this. It was a homogenizing of the United States, Canada, and Mexico. It was called the North American Prosperity Agreement. And it was bringing together Canada, United States, Mexico, no borders, sharing of currency, free travel back and forth, goods and services. And that got worse. As a matter of fact, what occurred on 9/11 during that tragedy put a halt between, I think it was Vicente Fox and Bush at the time, were supposed to meet to do the finalization of the North American Prosperity Agreement. All this does, it in no way undermines the Constitution because it's not a treaty. It's an agreement. And all it does is remove and replace NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement, that was put into place by Clinton. And it's got a few more rough edges. As a matter of fact, Curtis Ellis is a good friend of mine, and as Stephen Moore as well, who was one of the architects of Trump's economic plan. I've had him on consistently trying to explain this to people so that, they're not fearful, because on the face of it, it looks pretty bad. I mean, if you looked at the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, I mean, we'd be in bed with 12, 13 different countries, one country run by Sharia law, other countries where murderous dictators run the show. Nobody wanted that, and we were headed headlong into that thing. At the end of Barack Obama's term, it was only Trump that got us out of it, thank God. So no, I'm not nearly as concerned about the USMCA, the United States, Mexico, and Canada agreement, as I was even with NAFTA. NAFTA just didn't give us enough.
Well, may I ask, other than your comfort in it, what if you could tell me one specific thing that makes this a lot better than NAFTA? What would that be?
Well, a very substantial increase in income for the United States. No sharing of tariffs. We don't have to set anything on the side for a certain level to be hit before we get paid. It's a very straightforward agreement that says, look, we're contiguous countries. We're heavy trading partners. We shouldn't be holding each other under the gun like we do with with European countries, quite honestly. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
So that's more than I couldn't just ask a lot of other people about this. You seem like, because of your legal background, that you know what's going on.
Here's the thing. The USMCA, it's mutually beneficial. It's a win-win for North American workers, farmers, ranchers, businesses. When it's finalized, the agreement will create more balanced reciprocal trade. The key word there being reciprocal, that supports high-paying jobs instead of menial jobs for Americans. If you look at this, what changed from NAFTA to the USMCA? Well, what was that, 94? The United States, Canada, Mexico came together. They signed the North American Free Trade Agreement. The three countries reached a new agreement. That's all this is, and it's better for the United States. And it's better because we don't have to hit certain levels. It's reciprocal, so it makes more sense. We're heavy trading partners. We're contiguous countries. Why should we treat each other like we're half an ocean away?
That's true.
We're
right next door to one another.
Exactly.
We might as well make things as prosperous as possible for everybody.
That's precisely what this does. And it affords us some protections that we wouldn't have otherwise. So, no, it's not it won't undermine the Constitution. As a matter of fact, it won't affect the Constitution at all. It'll be better for American workers. And back and forth, it'll be better for the three countries. We'll all be better off income-wise. So, and plus, we don't have to worry about any other country getting in the middle of it.
Wow. I've never heard someone give me an explanation as to why. All I remember hearing Trump saying, wow, this is really, really great. This is going to be a really great deal. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. It's just that there's not much specificness when Trump is saying things like that. That's about anything.
It's just the way he talks. This is the best it's ever been. This is wonderful. It's going to be great. And I got no problem with that. We all have to walk back things. If we're being totally honest with one another and we speak without having to check a 3x5 card that some intern drew up for us, we all say things that we need to walk back. Okay, well, let me explain this a little further. And he does that, I think, to some degree. Listen, I've enjoyed the call, Sal. Please don't be a stranger, all right?
I will not. I'll say one more thing. At least Trump didn't say we're the ones we've been waiting for. You can be glad. He'll never say something that stupid like that.
No.
Thank you, Rick.
You bet, Sal. I appreciate it. Let's go to David. David in Virginia. David, thank you for waiting. This is Red Eye Radio. How you doing, David?
I'm doing just fine, Rick. Good morning.
Good morning.
And I tell you what, it's a pleasure hearing your voice on the airways again. I know you don't like to rant, but as far as I'm concerned, you can rant all the time. You bring a lot to the table when you do it.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, 2019. If you were to, I'm going to throw another biblical term at you. If you were to parable what the left has been doing since Trump was elected as a poker game to what they're doing to Trump in this country, I'd say 2019, they went all in. I mean, not only the D.C., but down to the state, county, and local level, specifically Virginia and Loudoun County. Virginia, they've already pre-filed 23 new gun legislative laws.
Oh, wow.
Which includes all the ARs, no purchase, sale, or possession of any AR or assault rifle, no threaded barrels, and no free guns, via raffle or whatever.
Right.
Then now what Virginia's doing is in the suburbs, they're going to redistrict because it's unfair for these, these upper middle income white suburbs. It's unfair to the lower income, so they're going to add them to that. And in Loudoun County, their board of supervisors flipped as well. They're talking about getting a police department instead of a sheriff's department. What's key about that is something similar going on in Montgomery County about how they're letting ICE detainees go.
Right.
Right now, the sheriff being an elected official, they can't do that. But with the police department, they can control that. If the chief doesn't comply, they can fire him and get the one they want. So if that happens, then it's going to be a sanctuary county. We're going to get the influx and all that sort of thing. But I tell you, and then you got Soros funding all these radical prosecutors for Loudoun County, Fairfax County, and I think it was Arlington County or Alexandria, one of the two. But we need some Republicans down here at the local level who will memorize the art of the deal, grab a backbone, and not budge.
No, David, you're absolutely right. When I worked in D.C., I lived in Alexandria across the bridge. You got to have some guys that, how do I say this politely? They need to get up here, pull their pants up, act like they're somebody, and do what they need to do. We need sanctuary cities for the Second Amendment. Why is it every time there's a mass shooting, God forbid there's another one, but why is it every time there's a mass shooting, Democrats want to take the guns from the people that didn't do it? Make any sense? No, not to be either. Good call. Please don't be a stranger. I'm Rick Roberts. This is Red Eye Radio.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
All across America, it's Red Eye Radio. I'm Rick Roberts, in for Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. 2019, the year in review with a little different twist. It's the year in review from your perspective. Of course, Westwood One news correspondents are helping out as well. And John Trout, he files a report about memories.
2019, the year in review. Thanks for the memories.
Hey, Sarah.
Doris Day was America's top box office star in the late 50s and early 60s in films like Pillow Talk. Actor Peter Fonda wrote and starred in the 1969 film Easy Rider.
Not every man that can live off the land, you know.
Actor-comedian Tim Conway was on the TV sitcom McHale's Navy in the 1960s.
Oh, I don't want to play war anymore. Last time I played war, I got hit in the head with a canoe.
Luke Perry portrayed the always cool Dylan McKay in the 1990s series Beverly Hills 90210.
I just don't believe in winning through intimidation. Of course, I'm doing the intimidating.
Actor Rip Torn of Men in Black fame had nearly 200 credits to his name. And puppeteer Carol Spinney, who voiced Big Bird and Oscar the Grouch on Sesame Street, brought smiles to kids of multiple generations.
You and me together, old pal.
I'm John Trout.
Great report, as always. Good work, John. Yeah, it's amazing. At the end of the year, you look back. You know, I remember exactly, I was at the Villa Theater when Easy Rider came out. You know, you look back and you think about those things. Something impacted every one of us in 2019. In 2019, it was not it was not easy from beginning to end. And of course, it's culminating now in probably one of the biggest political stories in the last 30 years. We'll see how that plays itself out. What we're going to do, we're going to take your calls. The thing that impacted you individually the most, maybe your family, maybe your business, maybe your kid's future. And we're all looking ahead to 2020, and that'll be here in just a few days. We'll continue with 2019, the year in review from your perspective, coming up in just a moment. 866-90-RED-EYE. That's 866-907-3339. I'm Rick Roberts. This is Red Eye Radio.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now it's Red Eye Radio with talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or just starting your day, welcome to the show. For Gary McNamara and Eric Harley, Rick Roberts. From the Pilot Flying J Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Thank you so much all across America. It's Red Eye Radio. If you're looking for a list of stations, maybe a podcast, you want to listen live to the full 5-hour show, you can do that on the Red Eye Radio app or on the Listen Live button at redeyeradioshow.com. And like I said, it's always a pleasure to be in for the guys when they're away. Normally, I do Monday through Friday, the afternoon drive from 2 to 5 on WBAP here in Dallas. Right now, we're in the middle of the year in review, 2019, from your perspective. And, of course, we've got some Westwood One news correspondent reports we want to get to. Steve Kastenbaum, Michael Toscano, Bob Constantini, John Trout, so many people, Linda Kenyon, and Cates. Everybody worked on this, and we appreciate it. Great job, everybody. And we'll get to some of that. Right now, we're finding out what made the biggest impact to you in 2019. All right, let's go to Henry in Birmingham, Alabama. Henry, thank you for waiting. How you doing?
I'm doing fine, and even better when I get to listen to you in the morning like this after I take care of the mid-watch. I tell you, Rick, man, you have the Christmas spirit surely within your heart, that one call where the caller led off by putting down and calling the other caller rude because he was unable to speak to any Democrats anymore because they just don't make sense or whatever. But the first thing he did was put somebody down, and it was another caller. And then he continued on asking you questions about how corrupt the president was. They are so blind. It seems like there's a spirit of blindness, and on their ears, they're deaf to hearing anything that is of a factual nature. I've learned in 2019 there are American patriots that love this country more than their own office that they held. And one was Devin Nunes. Devin Nunes, probably in the most politically corrupt state in our union, California, stood against them in the early year, in 2017, with the Devin Nunes memo. And every one of the people that you see lying today came out, including the head of the FBI that is still in his position today, came out, right? He's still there. Yep. Oh, my gosh. He came out and he told us what was going on, that there was an effort, a plot to overthrow the leader of our government and the government itself to keep it within their possession. But Devin Nunes deserves the highest the medal that a civilian can have, and that I believe that's the Presidential Medal of Freedom. He should be given that by President Trump, and there should be an effort for everybody to sign on to that, because without him, a lot of this may not have come out, because it made the liars come out in force to try to destroy him. A lot of people may not know this, but he had to face all kinds of investigations, and even now, because of what he did in setting on the impeachment trial, he was again offered up to the wolves. But
yep.
And the scariest thing, Rick, I got to tell you, I've never, and what I've come to a conclusion after watching President Trump, probably the most transparent president, the most investigated president in my lifetime. I have never seen this happen before, and he has shined through in every effort for, see, the left, the socialists, whatever, they believe that everybody else is guilty of their own sin, of their own criminality. They believe everybody's like them, themselves. The only problem, we're not all like you people. We're not like, we don't believe in lies. We don't believe in just false things that just never happen of the opposing political team. Do you want to know why Venezuela is in the condition it is today? Because there's a majority of people, no matter where they are on this planet, who are given lies and in a way that is so sweet that you cannot disbelieve it. They're promised things that will never come to be, they'll never happen for you, but you'll be just like Venezuela, and you'll be promised, like Maduro said, without the popular vote, the Democrat Socialist Revolution could have never happened, and I would not be president today without the popular vote. And this is why the left wants the popular vote and end the Electoral College.
No, you're absolutely right. And, of course, nobody's working harder to eliminate the Electoral College than Hillary Clinton. You know, there's a reason we have an Electoral College. The Founding Fathers were very suspect of a direct vote. I mean, after all, you have to realize where they came from. They came from a country where their theology and their government were one and the same. They didn't want any part of that. Why should the flyover states like Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, why should those people have no say in picking out a president? I mean, literally, you get rid of the Electoral College, you've got New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Chicago, Houston, and they're basically going to pick the president from now on. Well, that's great for Democrats because primarily these heavily urbanized areas are majority Democrat. I mean, that's why they're working so hard to flip the state of Texas. Texas has 38 electoral votes. They want those. If they can get those, along with California and New York, they've got a lock on the White House for as long as they want it. That's why, Robert Francis Beto O'Rourke, that's why he made more money in his Senate run than anyone in modern history. That didn't come from Texas. That came from outside the state in hopes of getting this guy to beat the incumbent, Ted Cruz. At the end of the day, the founding fathers weren't perfect. No human being is perfect, period. But they were ahead of their time. You can read the writings of Jefferson and Adams and Franklin and so many of the founding fathers, Paine. You can read their writings, and it's like they wrote them yesterday. They could see the failings of humankind, and they were trying to do everything they possibly could to prop that up with the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. They knew what was coming, but this is the one thing they never thought would happen. They never thought the American people would get fat, happy, lazy, complacent, apathetic, and just not care about anything, willing to advocate their responsibility to a bunch of empty suits and ties they see on the 5 o'clock news. Well, they must know more than I do, when nothing could be further from the truth. They just do something different for a living. The founding fathers never envisioned that somebody would go to Washington and stay until they literally had to be. David in South Carolina.
North Carolina, South Carolina now. Yes, South Carolina now. So the thing that kind of pushed me over the edge in one way, 2019, was this squad. If you just try to bear with me a second, I'll try to be quick. I want to cover a couple other points too. If you pick at random congressmen, the odds are infinitesimal that you would pick 4 females that are non-so-called white, women of color. So they assembled because of their gender and ethnicity or race, whatever you want to call it. So then, if anyone says anything about their policy, their statements or policies or bills, then you must be racist. But they set themselves up that way. So that was one thing. I didn't vote for Obama, but I was glad when I saw him win for a number of people other than myself. And I really thought he might continue to bring unity the way Bush was trying to do, eliminate divisions among race. But instead, it was a race card for 4 years, and I got pretty tired of it. And I think that's the reason why Trump was elected. One of the reasons, if you recall, during the election 2016, the air was thick with division before Trump took office. It was evident in my workplace. Another thing is, you mentioned about liberalism. If the love of money is evil, or the root of evil, then the whole point of liberalism is to give away other people's money because they want money. And now here's a basic thing about our country. It was founded on the principles of protecting life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. In life, how can you have life if you're aborted? So we know which party supports life. It's very obvious. And liberty, you cannot have liberty without protected borders. There happens to be some very big countries in the world who don't believe in liberty that would like to eat our lunch and take our resources and run our people. Well, the only way to prevent that is to secure our borders. And the pursuit of happiness does not mean a guaranteed paycheck. It's opportunity to work. And what president recently has done more for the protection of life, an attempt to protect liberty, and to help bring the economy toward one of more opportunity for individuals who want to work. So that's the basic thing, life, liberty, and happiness. And this thing about electoral college, I think people forget the name of our country. It's the United States of America. They want to eliminate states.
No, that's true. In the beginning, the founding fathers drew it up as protections for you and me. they didn't call it the federal government at the time. They called it the general government. Very limited in scope as far as authority. The people that had the greatest source of protection for the people were states. The state government, had many more responsibilities and duties to American citizens. I guess politicians in the year 2019 forgot that some of us read. Very good call. Please don't be a stranger. Let's go to Mary in Tennessee. Mary, thank you for waiting. Hi.
Hi, Mr. Roberts. Sorry.
Oh, fine.
I'm kind of dozing. This is the end of my day. I'm having issues with this Bernie Sanders and all these Democrats wanting to give free this, free that. Nothing's free. I work hard for a living. And then wanting to tax, the only way they could give all this stuff free away is to tax the working person's paycheck, take like half of everybody's paychecks to give to these other people that don't want to work.
So that's been exposed in 2019 as far as you're concerned?
No, it's just the start of what's got me going. It's sad to say I am a registered Democrat. And these Democrats make me ashamed to say that. They have all lost their minds.
Well, look, if I may, Mary, here's the situation. First of all, you're absolutely right. Nothing is free. Nothing. The government, however, does not have a job. The government does not accumulate wealth. The government doesn't generate cash flow. It either borrows money from other countries, you pay it back, it prints it, you stand good for it, or it taxes it directly out of your pocket. The government, if you don't hear anything else I say all night, the government cannot, absolutely cannot give anyone anything without first taking it from someone else. Now, let's look at the Democrats' platform. What is it? Vote for me, I'll give you stuff. I mean, look at Nancy Pelosi talking to Mitch McConnell. Well, I tell you what, I'll give you the articles of impeachment, but you've got to give me assurances and a list of witnesses. Wait a minute, hold on. Uno momento, Nancy. That sounds like quid pro quo to me. You do something for me, I'll do something for you. Weren't you falsely claiming Trump did that with the Ukraine? See, I'm sorry, the nut doesn't fall too far from the tree. It just doesn't. At the end of the day, Democrats rely on people needing something for them to get a vote. That's why the Democrats, they don't care whether drug addicts clean up or not. They don't care if people go to work or not. They don't care if people go to school or not. San Francisco doesn't care if you live on the streets or not. They just want to get you out of eyeshot from everyone else. At the end of the day, they are more than happy to have you totally dependent on someone because they want to be that someone. A government can only increase in size and scope. How? By more people being dependent on the government. That's the only way. That's the only way a government can increase in size and scope is because more people are dependent upon it. What was it, 4 years ago, they did a study. Out of 300+ million people in the United States, a full 1/3 were dependent on government for sustenance of life in some form, some fashion, at some level. Partner, that's a crime. That's a crime. In a land we've got 7 million jobs we haven't even filled yet in this country, and you're telling me you're going to kick back watching Leave It to Beaver reruns in your underwear until the mail comes so you can pick up your check? Trump said no. It's called welfare to work. If you are not infirmed, if there's nothing wrong with you physically or mentally, you can't get a check unless you get up off the couch and go to work. Well, I don't have any skills. He thought of that too. It's a training program. Well, wait a minute. What if I'm lazy? Well, people in hell want ice water too, but they're probably not going to get it. I'm Rick Roberts. You're on Red Eye Radio.
Customs and Border Protection is expanding the number of canine teams it has to help sniff out agricultural products brought to the country by arriving passengers.
I have 124 teams today. We will have 184 by the end of calendar year 2021.
CBP's Kevin Harriger says that's 30 teams each year for the next 2 years.
And we use beagles because of their drive for food and the reward philosophy, ideology, if you will. And they're people pleasers. They just love you. And their work ethic.
Why, in this case, are dogs better than humans?
In a relatively short period of time with a well-trained handler and his or her puppy, they can discern whether or not you have pork products, beef products, chicken products, fresh fruits and vegetables. A lot quicker than my adjudication and questioning and running you through an x-ray and opening all those suitcases.
USDA's Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service helps with the program. This is Stephanie Ho for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
The USDA report is brought to you by Cenex Roadmaster XL Premium Highway Diesel Fuel.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
All across America, it's Red Eye Radio. Rick Roberts in for Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. If you missed any of the shows, you can catch it on the podcast page at redeyeradioshow.com. Year in review 2019 from your perspective continues. Now your national forecast.
It is a big day for travel with motorists and folks getting on airplanes to head back to their destinations after the Christmas holiday. And we've got 3 real areas of concern across the country for potential severe weather or areas that might delay those plans. In the Northeast, mainly from Boston northward up through Maine, we have the chance for icing and potential snowfall. Then that situation also presents itself in the Pacific Northwest. Onshore for Seattle and down through Oregon, just rain, but as you get into the mountainous areas, you pick up icing and snow, especially at the higher elevations. That system will also extend eastward over the Rockies into Idaho and portions of western Montana. Heavy rain and snow for the desert Southwest and portions of Southern California with rain below I-10. Higher elevations of Arizona and New Mexico will pick up snowfall. Your national forecast from Red Eye Radio. I'm meteorologist John Trout.
Phone lines are open. 1-866-907-3339. 866-90-RED-EYE. Now, for Gary McNamara and Eric Harley, Rick Roberts.
And thank you so much. Always a pleasure, and I mean that sincerely. I appreciate very much Gary and Eric sharing their audience with me when they're away. I really do have a good time working with everybody here. We've been doing a year in review 2019 from your perspective. And a lot of really fine Westwood One news correspondents worked very, very hard on putting some of these reports together. This is Bob Constantini. Bob filed this report on the Ukraine.
2019, the year in review, Ukraine. That country's very name became synonymous with the impeachment of President Trump, whose administration withheld military aid approved by Congress. Republicans defending Mr. Trump, like James Sensenbrenner, argue the president had a right to ask Volodymyr Zelensky for a favor.
Ukraine is probably the most corrupt country in Europe, in the world.
The president's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, was in Ukraine, urging officials there to investigate Joe and Hunter Biden.
I had no involvement at all in the issue of military aid.
But Giuliani's unofficial diplomacy looking for dirt on the Bidens had Democrats crying foul.
Giuliani's been involved up to his neck in this entire mess.
That's Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer. The president also wanted Zelensky to look into theories Ukraine tried to help his 2016 opponent, Republican member of the House Intelligence Committee, Jim Jordan.
The member of parliament, Mr. Lyshenko, said the vast majority of Ukrainian politicians want Hillary Clinton to win, and they took actions to help her win.
Articles of impeachment were approved along party lines. I'm Bob Costantini.
Bob, great report. Let me just say this. For all those hair-on-fire, wide-eyed, knuckle-dragging, mouth-breathing liberals that you have to deal with all the time that tell you, aha, Trump's impeached, a black mark on his record. Okay, first of all, he was voted, the articles of impeachment were voted by the House. Impeachment is a process. It's not a vote. Unless those articles of impeachment are filed and sent to the Senate, there is no impeachment. Just, one of those pesky details that nobody ever tells you about on MSNBC or CNN. Let's go to Bert in Oregon. Bert, thank you for your patience. How you doing, Bert?
I'm doing good, thank you.
You bet.
Hey, you were saying what's the most prominent or eye-opening thing for the year of 2019?
From your perspective, yeah.
I can't help but say it's Donald Trump, and draining the swamp, showing us what transparency is, and I can't say that I'm a big Trump fan, that I always thought he would be the greatest president in the world or anything like that, but I sure think he's doing the job, and I'm glad it happened while I was alive.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because far too many people don't have a clue what this guy's done in the last 3+ years. We put a list of accomplishments together. It's on my website, on my webpage over at BAP. 384 separate and distinct accomplishments he has done either through legislation or executive order for everybody in this country, Republican, Democrat, apolitical, doesn't matter. And he did this while fighting every single day with the Democrats, the never-Trumpers of his own party, the media. I just sit back sometimes and I wonder, man, what could he have accomplished if he wasn't fighting 24/7? But I'm anxious to find out if he gets reelected, and I think he will.
I think you're right there. I think he's his own worst enemy if he doesn't get reelected. I don't see how he couldn't not get reelected. The thing I think with Donald Trump is that he's got all the money. I don't think he likes the praise. He likes the attention. He likes being told what a great job. He's kind of arrogant in that manner, and I care less. Keep doing the job you're doing, and you got my vote.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that very much. First and foremost, Trump likes to win. And some people will call that arrogance. Some people will call that egomaniacal. I don't care what you call it. As long as he's winning for the United States and the American people, keep it up. Keep doing it. I mean, he's one of those people, and I've dealt with him in business before. There's the type A personality, then there's the hyper type A, and then there's the triple A personality, and he's somewhere above that. He loves the deal. He loves, when I was in the oil and gas business, we used to call it being on the jazz. Working a deal, trying to get it from another oil company, you were on the jazz. This guy's on the jazz 24/7. Now, you may not like how he speaks. You may not like how he talks or references things from time to time, but think about it. Are you perfect? I know I'm not, and I'm taught for a living, have for 27 years. Do you always speak in a professional manner? No, you do not. Do I? No, I do not. Sometimes we have to walk things back. This idea of a polished political professional hasn't worked out very well. It took a non-politician to walk into the Oval Office and say, okay, I'm not beholden to any of you people. I'm really not even beholden to the party. I'm not beholden to special interest. I don't need your money. I already own a bigger house. I'm here to do what I told the American people I'd do. And he's just egocentric enough to do anything and everything to make sure that happens. And man, that's fine with me any time of the day or week. Good call. I appreciate it very much. Let's go to Howard in New York City. Howard, thank you for waiting. How you doing, Howard?
Sir, thank you for taking my call. Thank you for being articulate, intelligent, and on point. It's hard to put in words how I feel the way President Donald Trump is being treated by the Democratic Party and the mainstream media. I'm going to try not to curse. I would like to. I will not do that.
Thank you.
I have to wait, sir. I have to wait till November. And I believe on that night he will kill the other side, and we will feel justified. The last election, I had him winning 4 months in advance. I said last year he will be reelected. Enough is enough. If the independents are the key in this election, people have a sense of fairness. He is not being treated fairly, and I believe thoroughly. He deserves it, and President Donald Trump will be reelected. Yes, sir.
You know, if I'm to read what you said, Howard, in totality, it would sound like to me you, like many other Americans, Republican, Democrat, apolitical, what have you, 2019 was the year that the curtain was pulled back and everyone was exposed for what they were. He kept he kept going just like he'd always been going, trying to get things done for the American people. Then all of a sudden, the never-Trumpers in the GOP, the Democrats, the fake media, all of it, 2019 exposed it.
Exactly. I talk to people, and I'm going to echo what you have said. They don't like this. They don't like that. Okay. He is human, as you said. He takes care of business. He gets the job done. He gets results. Go Trump. Go Trump, sir.
Howard, I'm glad you waited, and I'm glad you called.
It was a tough wait, but we deserve it. And I cannot put into words, I don't know how I'm going to deal with November because I'm going to just be flying. He will win, and I hope everybody listening votes, gets the vote out. Enough is enough. And I'm going to say one thing about Hillary Clinton. We have been called deplorables. Well, I think the night that she lost, I believe Podesta told her supporters to go home. She couldn't handle it. She was a coward. I think that's deplorable. And if people on the Republican side did that, you know what the media would say.
Oh, yeah.
Go Trump. Go Trump.
Howard, thank you so much. I appreciate the call very, very much. Let's get Steve in. Steve in North Carolina. Steve, thank you for waiting. Welcome.
Thank you, Rick. I appreciate it. I got several things to say here. They keep adding up the more elections, but I'm a little geographically challenged in how fast I can talk, so I'm going to do my best.
All right.
I'm waiting for, with all this discrimination, I might give me a lawsuit one day that says it's a little discriminating against certain geographical areas on call-in talk shows because, some states, the guy can say in 2 minutes, he might say the whole Gettysburg address, and in 2 minutes I might be almost to the 407 years. So,
well, Steve, the floor is yours. Go for
it. Thank you, sir. Now, are you a native of Texas or Dallas?
Yes. Well, not Dallas. Yes.
Well, okay, I'll give you a little Texas trivia. I stayed for a while in my little younger days. I'm 60 now. In my 30s, I was there. But I was out in the countryside of Dallas, and I'll give you a bit of trivia. It was the home of a little small town, the home of Clyde Barra.
All right, Steve, I've lost you. I've lost the connection. Try to get back with us before the end of the show. Kathleen's in New York City as well. She may know Howard. How you doing, Kathleen?
Well, okay, but one of the things that I'm very concerned about is we have a mayor here that coddles the criminals. Governor Cuomo is ready to sign legislation to let a lot of the criminals out of the prisons, beginning in January 1st. They want to shut down Rikers Island, and one of the things that they're doing to shut down Rikers Island is that a lot of people that are getting arrested, committing crimes, they're getting no bail.
Well, you know what's happening, Kathleen, all across the country, not just Rikers, but all across the country, especially in the more liberal states, unless it's an extremely violent crime, they're not locking them up, and they're letting people go early. And at the end of the day, they're trying to get felons the right to vote in more and more states. And, of course, Nancy Pelosi, if you have a 16-year-old, I don't know what you were doing when you were 16, Kathleen. I was trying to get a date, I think. But according to Nancy Pelosi, well, we need to get the 16-year-olds the right to vote in a presidential election. What? Are you nuts? You know exactly why she's trying to do this. They'll take a vote from anybody. I'm Rick Roberts, Red Eye Radio.
What's the difference between standard number 2 diesel and premium fuel? Ron Jessen is Director of Product Management for Cenex, the makers of Cenex Roadmaster XL Premium Diesel Fuel, and he fills us in.
You may want to consider the total operational cost behind the price of the pump. If you look at the cost for replacement and you look at the cost of ongoing maintenance, unfortunately, those costs haven't gone down. They've actually continued to increase. But switching to a premium diesel fuel can really result in some large operational savings with the fuel economy and reducing the equipment repair costs. Our fleet owners, if you want to consider trying a premium diesel fuel in the past, or if you have considered it in the past, now is really the time to take advantage of that with the lower diesel fuel prices to try out that premium diesel fuel.
There are more than 1,450 Cenex locations in 19 states across the Midwest and Pacific Northwest. Visit Cenex.com to find a Cenex location and learn more. This report is a service of Shell Rotella.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
All across America, it's Red Eye Radio. Rick Roberts in for the guys. Glad to be with you. This is Bill in New Mexico. Bill, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Mr. Roberts. Thank you for taking my call. I'm a little geographically challenged for my speech, a little bit like Steve in North Carolina. But I'll try to get through this as quickly as possible. I can't tell you how much I've appreciated over the course of the last few days hearing from people all over the country. And I want to tell you that here in southeast New Mexico, in the Permian Basin, our economy is so much on fire, it's like a nuclear reactor.
Sure.
We are pumping out cash all over the country. My kids are in Fort Worth today, right now, have been. I don't know what they're purchasing this time, but last weekend they were up there and they bought a new 2020 vehicle in Fort Worth because you can't get them here. You have to go somewhere else to get them.
Yep.
We're importing our expertise. We're bringing in people from Silicon Valley to come over here and help set up these computer systems for these for this oil field and the drilling and the production side of it. We're importing people from as far away from Canada to stay here temporarily. They have to stay in temporary housing because we literally do not have housing for them.
No, I know. It's blowing and going. The Permian Basin is it hadn't seen this kind of action since the 80s at least. Listen, man, I am up against the wall. I'm going to be back with you Sunday night at midnight until Monday morning. So join me Sunday night. I'll be in with you once again. It's always a pleasure. Want to thank the guys, Gary McNamara, Eric Harley. It's always a pleasure to be in. And if you get a chance, give me a call back, Bill, in New Mexico. Love talking oil and gas. It's always a lot of fun. That's going to do it for me. Rick Roberts on Red Eye Radio.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.